First came the 1, then the 2, then the 3, and by such succession we came to 6.
You are number 6. I am not a number. I am a free man.
The Ioniq 6 from Hyundai. Now the first ones I don't know much about. The 5 we have tested, we have enjoyed, we have been impressed by. But the 6 is a whole nother bag of wax or a bundle of fish or whatever. But it is a beautiful car. It is a mid-size sedan. And how in the world is it gonna stand out in a world full of other mid-size sedans? Well, first of all, it's all electric, so there's not that many of those. But this car is special because Kevin Bacon likes it. And as we all know, we are just 6 degrees of separation away from Kevin Bacon, the TV, movie, and musical star that we all love.
He's an actor! He's never actually saved anyone.
But actors are repugnant.
I know. They make me feel gross and creepy when they pretend to be someone else.
Oh, no. Acting is a wonderful profession. I mean, you don't get to live just one life. You get to live so many lives. And
we got Quill the worst gift ever. A disgusting actor.
But will we love the Ioniq 6? I think you just might. Stay with me. We'll find out. Is it not beautiful? You know, I really think it is. This is something that Hyundai has been so good at the last 10 or 15 years, as they've been rounding up their styling to make their cars look really special, in my opinion. And this one, this has a purpose, the Ioniq 6. One of the big goals of this car, it's not competing with gas sedans as much as it's competing with other electric cars. To be up there at the top of the range as far as things like just general performance, range, versatility, all that kind of thing. And this before you is our special Ioniq 6 that is the long range version, meaning that it, of course, it has a bigger battery than the standard version. And it's also got all-wheel drive. So we have 2 electric motors, one in the back, which I believe is 174 kilowatts, and the one in the front, which is smaller. I don't remember what it is right off the bat. But we have 2 big electric motors and a very large lithium-ion battery. At some point I say lithium polymer. That's what Hyundai has been using for a while, but the spec sheet on this car tells me it's actually a lithium-ion battery. But it's also granted with a range of about 270 miles. And that's not even the best range you can get out of an Ioniq 6. Some of the other models do a little bit better. I think this is because this is the limited version, so it's got more stuff on it. It's also got the 20-inch wheels, and wheel size matter a lot on electrics for a lot of different reasons, but 270-mile range is nothing to laugh at.
that's weird.
And 320 total horsepower is nothing to laugh at either. So if you know your electric cars, you know that that big battery pack is mounted on the lower side of the chassis, the bottom of the chassis there, which aids handling. And this thing weighs about 300 pounds shy of 5,000 pounds. It's a heavy car, just like all electrics are. But it doesn't feel that way. It just feels planted. It doesn't feel like it's a big old heavy porky thing. And it's got a lot of other things that are becoming kind of common on, well, the regular fare, if you will, on electrics. That's these really stupid door handles. I'm not fond of electric door handles at all. But this is the kind that you push it in like so, and it's, when the car's running down the highway, both of these door handles are, well, this one's not in because I just did that one, but they're both inside there, they're plugged in. And then they open up like that when you actually need to use them. I've never understood the weight, complexity, and everything else of making those electric. Look at there, there's a keyhole in there just in case of emergency. It's one of those things, I don't understand the logic of it overall, because I really don't believe it makes that much difference in terms of aerodynamics. There's a lot of ways you can do door handles that are very, very aerodynamic. But for some reason, this is becoming the way, not just on electrics. You're also saying, oh, it just locked itself. See, now it's all smooth. Now it's all smooth. As long as I have the key with me, I can unlock that. But that's one of the goofy things I don't like. There's very few things on this car I don't like, because it's, overall as a package, it's kind of fantastic. And your performance, man, I tell you, 320 horsepower is nothing to laugh at, especially when it's delivered by your electrics. So you get that amazing amount of torque, which I've forgotten offhand. It's like 400 foot-pounds or something crazy. But it's available from the beginning of your power range, which is when you first touch the gas, all the way up to pretty much infinity. Well, or up pretty damn high. That torque is always there, and that's one of the things that makes, one of the many things actually, that makes electric such a pleasure to drive. And I mentioned, what, 116-inch wheelbase, so you will not be surprised to learn that, yes, it's a midsize, but boy, it's got a lot of room in it. It's very generous on the room side. And where do we plug her in? That massive thing right there, which I can't open from the outside. I need to, there's a button inside that allows me to open that. But it is capable of both AC and DC charging, or the combination chargers, what I like to call them, because they have both AC and DC power going to them, or some damn thing. But the fact is that allows for high speed or high input charging. In other words, your more supercharger kind of things. Now, if you have just regular household current and you have an electric car, you got a lot of time on your hands as far as how long it takes to charge. Now, Hyundai claims with ordinary household current that you can go from 0 to 80% in about 7 hours. And believe it or not, that's like really good for a car like this. But I'm doubtful that, I like to go to 100% myself, and that last 20% takes a lot longer than the previous. It has to do with how these batteries charge. They get slower in terms of their ability to input the electricity as you get fuller, as the battery becomes more charged. So you got to allow for that. That's, you know, one of the big things about the electric car lifestyle is you have to have a situation where you're going to have time to charge it when you need to. Now, but the benefit of a long range, like having 270 miles on a full charge, that speaks for itself. I mean, you have a lot of people, it depends. You got to keep track of how much driving you do and where you do it, as to decide whether or not an electric is right for you. Because if you have most people in this country that live in a sizable city, it's going to work fine, because you're not going to have an incredibly long commute, and more of your employers will have a charging station in the parking lot that hopefully not a whole bunch of other people are using. That's another problem with charging. If you go to a big charging bay like your Electrify Americas and some of the rest of them, the more cars that are parked at the charging base center, the lower the actual charge you're going to get on the cars. It's going to take longer. But like everything else, there's an app that'll tell you about how long it's going to take, and it will monitor it for you, so you can wander off and come back, you know, do your things, go out and buy your stuff. You know, you're looking for that little, that three-way bulb to go into your light in the house that blew out. So you go into your box store and you're looking for that. So you can just pick up your phone and look at it and see how the car is doing, because you want to be back to the car when it's charged, fully charged, because if not, the electric company starts charging you money for the car sitting there when there is probably somebody else who would like to use that bay after you, and your car is in the way. So this is all part of the electric living, the future. But I tell you what, as far as looks and pleasure to drive and all that thing, you just wait until we get deep into this thing and you're going to see this is a very, very special vehicle for Hyundai, because they had a good one in the Ioniq 5 in my opinion, but this is a whole nother ball game. That's why Kevin Bacon has one. You know, Kevin Bacon, he don't drive around in just anything. He likes to be able to carry his wife and guitars and his brother, the band, you know, things that he loves.
Blue or red. I can also make it play nature sounds if you want.
And he has chosen to lend his name to the advertising campaign for this vehicle. And that says something where I come from. Of course, I come from very strange places. But anyway, let's look deeper into this thing. Let's talk a little bit more about this amazing drivetrain. Wow, I have de-hooded. Unhooded? Well, I've put the hood up on our Ioniq 6, and look what we have. Well, we have everything that you need to actually get to under the, quote, hood, unquote, area is right here, because so much of the propulsion system of the car is not in this area. The most important part of the propulsion system on the Ioniq 6 is actually in the back that drives the rear wheels. For example, this is an all-wheel drive version, but if you get the two-wheel drive version, it's not front drive. No, it is not. It is actually rear-wheel drive, because that's where the primary drive system is, which is on this vehicle is 165 kilowatts of electrical power and thrust. And as you can see, there's our charger for our home use right there. Convenient. There we have our coolant, and our here's our coolant right here, because you got to cool the transaxle system, which really isn't even a transaxle system. What they're actually, the most important thing to cool in this is obviously the battery, but the electric motors themselves have to have some cooling as well. And here's where we'll put in our windshield washer fluid, very convenient. And let's come over here, camera shadow, woo! And on this side, look, you can open here to get further access to the 12-volt battery. All these vehicles have a 12-volt battery, then they run, people normally say, and the specs normally say, it's there primarily to operate things like the electric windows and things of that nature. But the most important thing that does is it boots up the computer, the main ICU that runs everything on the car. So that's what your 12 volts for. And like any other car, you're going to have to keep an eye on that thing, keep it clean. And there's also charging that goes, or excuse me, charging heating that goes on in the wintertime to your battery pack, your lithium-ion battery pack, to keep it in good shape, even when the temperatures drop precipitously. It's always been a drawback in the past with lithium-ion batteries. They weren't the greatest things in the world when they got cold. But they've alleviated that problem quite a bit by using heaters to keep the engine at a more optimal, keep the battery rather, at a more optimal temperature. And so there's not a whole lot underneath here. There is a motor on this side of the car that drives the front wheels. It's a mere 74 kilowatts. But like I said, your total output, the mightiness of your output is 320 horsepower. And the torque I mentioned, or the exact torque number, is 446 pounds-feet. Now that's a lot of torque. So one question that came to my mind, and I do not have a satisfactory answer for yet. By the time I finish this video, hopefully I'll have the word directly from Hyundai. But they have not published anything that I've seen that came out of Hyundai telling you what the towing capacity is. But there was some thing on the internets that I saw that said 3,300 pounds of towing. I have no idea if that's even remotely true, but that's what they're claiming. People are always claiming stuff. But there we have it, by the way, aluminum, of course, very light hood. Oh, and by the way, we got an optional, let's have a look here. I believe that beautiful paint that I'm staring longingly at is called, where's that color? I'm looking, I'm never gonna find, yeah, here we go. Nope, yep, nope. Exterior color, transmission blue. Oh, which reminds me, does it have a transmission? No, it actually does. It has it's electric motors are a direct drive thing. So when you go backwards, it reverses the way it puts its output. And when you go forward, it just spins faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, the faster you want to go. That's your transmission. And when you think about it, that does an amazing job of eliminating parts and hardware, which you would think ultimately would give you greater reliability on the long term by not having all those parts that are wearing and aging and rusting. But the thing is, another great thing about this car is the front and rear drivetrains are completely independent of each other. They are dependent on the computers to make sure that everything, all the sensors, wheel sensors are working, so everything knows what everything else is doing in terms of power output and that kind of thing. And it would probably be pretty good in the snow. I'm not going to be testing this in the snow, but I bet it will do just fine because these systems tend to work pretty well. And it obviously they've got all kinds of tricks going on in the black box about which part of the drivetrain it uses when, all in the service of optimizing performance, yes, but battery life. And that's why you also have adjustable engine regeneration, which is, we'll talk about that at length, with your regenerative braking to lengthen that, that wonderful 270-mile range that this thing says it has, which I have a feeling is going to be real close to accurate, by the way. Just what I've seen so far and having the car for a few days. It seems to be doing just fine on the battery life. So let's look at more things, shall we? There are so many things to look at. Look, it looks kind of like a steel spider's web. This amazing 20-inch, mind you, wheel on our Ioniq 6. The tire size is 245/40 arc 20. Then these are in fact M plus S, meaning mud and snow rated. So it's a serviceable general use winter tire, but not a hardcore snow tire. But these are the P0 Pirellis, the P0 all seasons. It also says, look at there, it's got a little thing that says electric on there. So it's kind of, well, what does that mean? Well, it's probably tuned such to give very, very low rolling resistance, which again, all in the service of keeping that battery capacity as high as possible for as long as possible to give you as much range as you can possibly have. You can look at the brake disc right there, and it looks rusty and it's got some lines on it. The fact of the matter is we've had a whole lot of rain, and I've driven this thing about 7 miles from where it was to where it is. And because of regenerative braking and things like this, the brake pads haven't had that much hard use yet to knock off all that residual rust that you always get with just about every manufacturer. I know for a while General Motors on their trucks had a brake rotor that was called Duradisc or something like that. I don't know if they still do that, but it was supposed to eliminate that. And as I recall, it did, but I don't know if it was actually a good or bad thing. And they never talked a lot about it at General Motors, so I thought they would. If they had done that, they would have talked more about it, but who knows? You never know. They're doing all kinds of things that they don't brag about as much as they probably could if they wanted to. But there's our massive P0s, and I'm assuming that that means that these are run-flat tires. But I don't know that for sure, because every manufacturer seems to have their own logo. I mean, if it says P0, that implies pressure 0, right? So, but that doesn't necessarily mean, I have learned that manufacturers have different ways of putting a different design logo and things to tell you that it is in fact a run-flat tire. So we'll come back here. I do love the lines on this car. Got our cool little spoiler back here. Isn't that neat? That's a very cool spoiler. And it's very easy to open the rear hatch because there's a nice prominent button. You don't have to dig around and find it, which is good for me. Let's go inside here. Ooh, boy. Look at there. To get the sun out of the shot. There we go. We have a goodly amount of room here. We have a 60-40 split down with our hatchback. Hatchback. It's not a hatchback. It's a trunk. This is another one of those things, and Hyundai's been playing with this for a long time. A lot of times they have a car that looks like it has a trunk, but it's actually a hatchback. To me, this car looks like it's a hatchback, but it actually has a trunk. They're just playing with us, just using the genre. It's a pretty good sized trunk. It's a little there's a little bit of shallowness here, right here to the opening. It's not too bad though. But we also have an ability to pull this like so, and then well, anyway, if I could reach far enough, I'd push it forward. But that's how you disengage the seat backs, to fold them forward to give you more room for large items. And what's underneath here? Tire mobility kit. Now what the hell is that for? Oh, yes. So I guess maybe they're not run flats, but you do have a mobility kit if you do have a flat to help hopefully bring a tire back to life sufficiently that can get you to a repair facility. But no spare tire. I mean, spares are just, you know, the manufacturers don't like them, and I love them, and so we have a quandary. But that's what that is. It's just another quandary. But otherwise, nicely finished, and obviously power operated. But look at now, see if you don't agree with me. Don't it look like it's got a hatchback on it? That says hatchback to me. But it ain't. It's a trunk. Clever. Them stylists, I tell you. They do have their fun, don't they? So, in closing of this particular segment, look at the beautiful car in front of me, man. It's an expensive car, yeah, but this is pretty much at your top of the line Ioniq 6. It's a limited version, and it is an all-wheel drive version, and it's the extended range version. It's all those versions in one. Now let's see how trippy the interior is, because that's one area where the electrics tend to go a bit wild. Does the Ioniq 6 go wild? Come with me. Ah, my friends, you look cold. Come, gather around the warm fireplace while we examine the interior cluster of our Ioniq 6. Actually, you know, I don't think warm fireplace, you don't want to mention the word fire around a battery-powered car. I mean, just because it doesn't matter if there's a problem or not, or if it's exaggerated. Or City at Dawn. Ooh, that's one I'm not familiar with. Ah, here we are jogging. That'll be kind of annoying, won't it? The jogging sound. Oh, it's an automatic rainy day. Lively Forest. You can't beat the Lively Forest. Okay, so welcome, friends. Welcome. As with the Ioniq 5, if you remember that, we have a very interesting instrument cluster. It's not even an instrument cluster. It is a flat screen display. And the way they've set it up, which I think you're going to see more and more of, and I think works really well, is you'll start here, over on this side right here, and then you pan over here, and it becomes the center display, you see. It's like a big old horizontal display that brings together various elements. And in front of us is what I will determine is now called the driving element for the driver or the operator of the electric car. And here's our speedometer right there. This is an airfoil. I don't know why it's there, but why not? Hey, let's go with the airfoil. On the right, look at the nice big letters. This is so well done. it shows that we have 185 miles left of range based on the current charge of the battery. But, oh no, that's not everything. You go down on the lower left down here, and you'll see where we have a little gauge that indicates what our battery reserve is right now, right next to the regenerative braking indicator, which is now set on automatic, so it adjusts itself. But you can control that manually, which is a lot of fun, and you can master that. Then you have your drive mode. Now here's our drive mode selection right here. We could go to Eco, we could go to Normal, Sport, Eco, Normal. Should we leave it on Normal? Yeah, why don't we do that? We'll leave it on Normal. I usually have it on Eco. I'll put it on Normal for now. But in the middle, I have selected the trip odometer, which I've so far driven at 84.5 miles. And actually, you know, that's not just me. I believe the person that charged the car, that is from 100% charge before it got to me. And they put about 22 miles or so on it between getting it fully charged at the charging bay and delivering it to me. So that's how many miles we have on this battery so far, and we have 66% left. So what's our total range going to be? It's going to be, it's supposed to be a maximum of 270. I think realistically we'll get over 200, but that varies. I mean, I'm using the battery right now, just sitting here. But there's all kinds of conditions, just like with a gas-powered car, depending on your actual driving conditions. Ooh, there was a little bird. Did you hear? Lovely. Everything contributes or decreases your battery capacity. Temperature is very, very important. What kind of driving, the speed you're going, all that kind of stuff. And the weather. How windy it is, if you're going into the wind, against the wind, all these things matter. But the car is pretty good, and most of the electrics are pretty good these days at calculating that information fairly real time, as far as it's just looking at how far you're going and how much battery has been expended to cover that distance, and then adjusting your overall range accordingly. So I'd love to live with this thing for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years and see how accurate that actually is. It would take a while, but my God, there's a 13%, there's a 22% chance. We don't need any more rain. God. Oh, anyway, it's giving me a forecast right there. I'm not sure where that's for. Phasalia? I don't know what that means. So anyway, let's take a look at our controls, because they are novel and interesting, but still pretty intuitive. Here we have some of our selections we can put in that center screen. We got your compass. This will tell you which motor is doing what as far as the traction being dispensed. Or excuse me, not the traction, but the torque being dispensed to which wheel train in order to just tell you what's going on as far as whether or not you're sliding and that kind of stuff, because this is the all-wheel drive version, and the two-wheel drive version will just be is it front or rear drive, folks? Huh? We're seeing more and more of cars like the Tonale from Alfa Romeo that I had, that has so much more power to distribute out the rear motor instead of the front. So these things all change based on that. And if I got my notes right here, let's have a look. Yeah, we have 165 kilowatt rear and 74 kilowatt in front. So the question I have, and I don't know the answer to this right there, so I'll try to get it. If you do get the two-wheel drive version of this vehicle, is it front wheel or rear wheel drive? I'm going to take a stab at it and say it's rear wheel drive. But we'll see. But hopefully it is, because rear wheel drive, as BMW is known for so long, and front wheel drive has tremendous advantages to it in so many applications. But for overall sporty handling, it's so much easier to drive a rear wheel drive car. Did you know that that's one of the problems they had when various police departments started switching over to cars that had front wheel drive? This was a long time ago. But it was just the sedans and stuff they chose because in every other way it met all the criteria quite nicely. So they selected it. But a lot of the cops didn't like driving the things because they had been trained and were used to very powerful rear-wheel drive chassis. And they could do all kinds of things just because, as a friend of mine in college said, when I was driving his Mustang, because I hadn't driven it before, and he goes, and it had a lot of power, that car, and he said, you know, you can take care of oversteer and understeer with this car pretty easy. He goes, it's rear-wheel drive. You grew up with it. And that's true. Most of us did back then, but now most people are growing up with front-wheel drive. So it's good to see these manufacturers that are doing that, because I think the car overall, I think generally speaking, they handle better with rear-wheel drive. But you know, there's situations where that's not necessarily true too. Anyway, so we have all that. We have. Is there anything else here I need to show you? That's just basically when we have our cruise control on and our adaptive cruise control and our steering and all that stuff. It will show you that. So there's what we got in the middle of that. Now, control-wise, left side of the steering wheel we got is basically our cruise control area. And this controls our distance from the vehicle in front of us, and this turns on and off the ability for the car to self-steer or to lane, what is it called, lane trace, that sort of thing. And so far, it works pretty average. Hyundai and Kia have usually been a little better than some of the rest of them, but it's okay. It's fine. And over here we have this is basically radio stuff, telephone, talk to the car. Down here is a very important button, your drive mode button, so you can select sport, eco, or normal, which I just did. I selected all that. And down here, we have all kinds of stuff. We have, this is one of my favorite buttons, because this is the button that opens the flap so you can plug in your charging cord. Very important knowing about that. This is the intensity of your cluster, non-cluster lighting. Mirrors are all the way down here. Kind of weird, but there's okay. And here's our electronic parking brake. I didn't even know this was down here because it's set right now that whenever you put it in park and release it from park, it releases the rear mounted, I'm 99% sure, parking brake. So you gotta have you use your parking brake, people. Come on. Our paddles are not for shifting gears because we don't have a transmission per se. What that is your engine braking and your regenerative braking, I should say. Engine braking, jeez. Regenerative braking. On the right side, you decrease it, and on the left side, you increase it. So if I wanted to increase it, I hit that, and see? That little thing jumped. I'll make it go down for you now. Watch there. Oh, look at that. Look at that. And we're back on automatic. So that is a wonderful feature to have on all electric vehicles, are getting them pretty much. You can actually brake the car without using the brake pedal or the mechanical system at all, and just use the regenerative braking, which of course is when the electric motor swaps over to being a generator. The drag that is produced by the wheels turning that generator will help slow you down. And the function where you can actually alter the amount that happens, I don't know how it works exactly, but it also, whenever you increase it, the regenerative braking, it also puts more power back into the battery pack faster. And, you know, I've always wondered about if you lived at the top of a hill, and how much of your power are you going to get back if you just coast all the way down to the bottom of the hill and just use your regenerative braking and not use your mechanical braking, how much power it will actually put back in the battery. I don't know. It's not a huge amount, but it is a noticeable amount. That's just my theory based on what I've seen so far in this vehicle. So, all right, our central screen, which is all part of our laminate de visual. God, I don't know what to call this format thing, but I like it. I like it. We, of course, have your navigation system and everything else. And there's buttons right down here. Very easy to get to, very logical. Put the map on. There's the map. There's our previous destinations. And there's the map itself. By the way, I do have the screen set at a dark mode because you have a choice between automatic, which it'll change depending on the outside light, whether it's night or day, that sort of thing. Or you can have it bright all the time or dark all the time. I like dark because I find it much easier to read. Maybe this goes back to everything I used to deal with in terms of gauges and on airplanes and in cars and everything else with a black background with white letters. My eye seems to be able to see that much easier. And that's why I have it, the whole thing set up like this. Because if you switch it over to the white, let me see if I can, how can I do that easily? Let's go home and let's go to settings, setup, and let's see, vehicle navigation, sounds, screen, theme, layout, display, there we go. All right, so illumination, camera, what? Brightness auto adjust, well that's not what I want. That's not what I want at all. Screen theme, layout, we'll try that. There we go. Automatically displays the white theme in daylight conditions and the black theme in nighttime conditions. But I've selected black. Now we'll go to white, and you'll see how bright this is. Ah! That just doesn't work as well for me. But that may be the way you want to go. But I like it darker. That works better for me. But isn't it nice you get to pick that? I think that's very nice that you can do that. But anyway, here's our menu of all our wonderful things, our climate, warmer, ventilation. You have a lot of conventional controls that are easy to get to without going through a number of sub-menus. And that is always a good thing, and that is something that is disappearing on a lot of cars, and they need to go back. They need to take a lesson from Hyundai, because Hyundai, they make this car, the Ioniq 6, is, Kevin Bacon just, he's been asleep in the back. Hi, Kev. What's going on, man? They've made it such that they're combining a real contemporary modern theme, as you can see throughout the car, with some conventional touches that make the car familiar and more intuitive to deal with. And so if you drop down here, you have the map, navigation, media. This is a star which I believe you can select what you want this particular button to do, and you have a few choices. And here's our tuning. And here's our cameras. Woo, cameras. And then look at those beautiful cameras. You got your 360 on the right side, and you have your, it's looking out the front right now. Or is that the back? Wait a minute, let me think. That's the back, rear camera. We can adjust these things here, you see. Let's, well, this is different kinds of rear cameras. Woo, side camera. I stand corrected. And rear and square. Square back overhead in case you want to back it in and pick up a trailer. Which, like I think I mentioned before, or I mentioned at some point in this, I don't know what the actual capacity is. I've heard 3,300 pounds to tow a trailer with this. Electrics aren't the best choice for trailers unless you're not going very far, because it really depletes the battery. Oh man. Look at there. Look at what we do there. Look at that. Can we spin? Look at that. You can spin it with your finger. I'm looking all around us, up and down. Look at that! How does it do this so quickly? Taking all the images from all the little cameras on the outside and then doing some virtual reality here. And here's where see, it's been so rainy that people bring a truck and a horse trailer through here, and that's what you get. Isn't that something? Oh boy, that's outstanding stuff. What's this do? Parking distance warning, top view parking lines. You can fine tune what you're looking at here, which is good. So again, that's another area of modern technology I really approve of. Oh, by the way, this is another, if you're just driving along not using a navigation system and don't have it plugged into the media so that you're selecting media, this is the display you get, which is great because it is yet another reminder. It even shows you where the battery is right there. And this is what I usually see as I'm driving. And it's still telling me I have 66% of my battery left and 180 mile range. And that's the thing for those of us who suffer from battery car anxiety, electric anxiety, because are we going to be able to get to where we're going? Will there be a sufficiently powerful charging station there when we get there so I can get home? All these questions like that. It helps with that. It keeps you constantly informed about what's going on. A lot of cars are doing this now, but I like the way Hyundai does it because it's very straightforward and very simple. And simple is good. So we've been through these buttons. Down here is our ventilation section. We got you can control your climate right here. You can also go into a climate menu up top. But this is a real nice setup. What's the hell is that doing in the way? This is a real nice setup down here for your climate because everything's very easy to get to. I have it on auto right now. But naturally we have a heated steering wheel. We have heated seats. Do we have ventilation? Let's have a look. Automatic dehumidifier, smart ventilation, blah, 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 blah. Yes, there we go. I'm gonna turn on ventilation here. Woo, 3, 2, 1, off. And see, you go heating, cooling, you see. Now it's just minor right there. It's just a minor. Well, I thought, did I go too far? Oh, I'm off. There we go. Ooh, yeah, and I can feel it right now. How about that? But again, that will deplete my battery, which I really don't want to do because I have to go a long way tomorrow, so I'll turn that off for now. But there you go. So you have that, but you have all this also readily at hand, right down here, separate from everything else, which is good. I'm going to put this back on there. There we go, and back on there. There we go. So what else? Well, here is our charging station, which works really well. It's been able to charge my phone just fine using the fact that it even has a case on it. It slides right in. It's kind of funky because it doesn't really slide all the way in the way a lot of them does, and there's nothing to affix it, you know, like a clamp or anything like that, but you're still good. It's fine. USB-A actually. Come back, we got your cup holders. Now, for some weird reason, and I don't know what it is, Hyundai has elected to put your window switches right here, in the middle of the console, kind of like Jeep Wranglers do that. And they do that primarily, I believe, because you can take the doors off, which is probably one of the most useless features anybody ever put on anything. But don't get me started on that. I would explain it at length. But here's our windows. We can control all our windows here. But why in the middle? They must have a reason. There must be a reason. We go further back, and here's our console. And there we have 2 USB-C ports and a nice deep console with plenty of room in it. And you got this little area here, this area that will just accumulate things that you'll put in there, like little toy soldiers. If you ever watched Ted Lasso, you may want to put a little toy soldier in there. It's a good thing to have that toy soldier there. And what else do we have? How big is our glove box here? It's very roomy. It's actually got quite a bit of room in it. It even has this little thing here that you can put stuff in that's in the doors section. Very interesting, actually. And then our seats. What can we tell you about these seats? Well, they are ventilated. They are very, very comfortable in terms of both support, and they have a lot of good, the lateral bolsters are pretty good. So for spirited driving, they hold you in place very nicely. And what the heck are these made out of? I always go through this because nowadays, let's have a look. Comfort and convenience. H-Tex ventilated fronts, H-Tex trim seats. So this is Hyundai Tex. So even though it seems, isn't this cool right here? This is kind of a recurring theme in the Ioniq 6, by the way. These digital thingies. You got this digital thing happening. You also have a digital thing happening right here when it's charging. It's not charging my phone right now because my phone is completely charged. But anyway, it feels like leather. Looks like leather. It's got a real durable feel to it, but it is actually a synthetic, a textile something. But you'd swear it's leather. I mean, it's amazing how it feels. So that's all of this up here. You have now seen the front. Of course, up top we have our beautiful roof here, which we can go all the way back, and it'll open up like that. And we have blue sky. Let's go. Let's fly. Oh, I guess we're not going to fly right now, but that will close, and then it will continue, if you press this, to close the shade itself. I said panorama. Did I say panorama? It's not a panorama, but it's a nice size. It's a good sized sunroof, moonroof thing. Oop. Nope, wait. There, that's where I want it. There's a fly. Oh no. All right, so now let us sojourn to the rear, our rear seating area, and see, first of all, how big are these doors? You got these funky fold-in door handles, which I'm not enamored with on any vehicle that has them. I don't get that, but here we have about 88 degrees opening, a nice big door, plenty of room here. And look at all this leg room we have. You just heard a pop. That's because I had previously opened the 60-40 split here because I was doing something in the trunk. But anyway, how far does our winder go down? Oh, about 94%, I would say. But room, oh yes, room is abundant, especially leg room. This is like, what was it, that car I just had, I thought was a bit of a limousine? Was it an Audi? No. Was it a Lexus? No. What the heck was, I don't even remember what the car was now. But it had a lot of room in it. I do remember that part of it. Here we have our USB-Cs. And I can't get over how much room there is. And the floor, by the way, is completely flat. So if you want to put, and it's a very wide car, so if you want to put 3 people across back here, no problem. I mean, they don't even have to like each other. They can tolerate it. What we don't have is like individual map lights. We do have one center light here, which is just soft glow, but no individual map lights, no window shades or anything like that. Another thing that's kind of bizarre about this is the floor seems higher than on most cars like this, just a little bit. But you notice it because, as you can see, my knees are a little higher up. So I don't know if that's going to bother anybody or not. I would assume it has something to do with the batteries being in the bottom of the car below you, and that maybe they needed some of the room that would lower the floor a little bit more for that battery accommodation. I don't know. It's not bad, but it is. You notice it though. It's different. It's a little higher than what people are probably used to. Here we have our armrest, which is extremely comfortable. I'll tell you what else is comfortable. The lower back support on these rear seats is really nice. It's got kind of a, you get some lumbar support, but it's also just very, very comfortable. It's very accommodating. It's a very comfortable rear seat. The more I sit here, I'm beginning to wonder how high this floor actually is, because I'm starting to notice it a little bit. That you do have your legs up a little higher. I have to go check with my friends at Consumer Reports. I'm very interested in if they mention it at all, and if they noticed it, because I always double check stuff like this. That's the only source I check, by the way. I don't look at anybody else's reviews, because I don't do. Well, who cares car reviews? Who watches that? I mean, come on. But I do check with Consumer Reports when I have something I'm kind of curious about, because they are so good at testing cars. Nobody's better. But anyway, another interesting thing about this is that it's a very subtle type of trim in this car. And this is what, the limited version, I believe? Yeah, I believe that. Hang on there. Well, yes, it is the limited long-range version. So this is like the top of the line trim, and it's nice and understated. It's not way over the. Get out of here, fly. You don't want to make me angry, fly. You know what happens to flies when I get out. It's muted in terms of it's not over the top, and a lot of new electrics are a bit over the top with stuff, and you really get a feeling that this was designed by a kind of a small, either a small sized team of people design both the exterior and interior styling, or they were in outstanding communication with each other, because it all blends together nicely. Some cars, like, there's weird things on them that kind of stick out to you that don't seem to fit with the rest of the theme of the car in terms of styling and other things. But this car, everything to me seems like it's all balanced together nicely, because you have this touch of contemporary technology along with some more traditional styling cues and things. And that's that. So what else? I think that's about it for our interior. They did a great job. The Ioniq 5 was nice, but this is just a little better. And look at, I don't know if you can get the impression, but with the GoPro you probably can. It's very wide, this car. From left to right you got a lot of space. So you could absolutely put 5 people in this car, no problem. And they can zoom along with all that horsepower and all that smoothness. Nice. Hello, I'm Rod McEwen, and this is the Lively Forest. I tell you, Hyundai will always please me with their excellent sounds of nature media that they have built into their cars. Because I'll tell you right now, I find it soothing. In a world in turmoil, it's always good to have off. No. Oh, wait, front. Low. Well, how do I turn on the thingy to do the thingy? I think that'll do it. Wait a minute. Auto. There we go. Perfect. So according to my handy guide here, we have 248 miles of range ahead of us. We have the paddle shifters, so we can do some, this side says minus, this side says plus. And I've always found these things vexing and confusing on the Hyundai / Genesis electrics, because there, if I want to coast more, there we go. I put minus. Now that works for me. All right, that makes perfect sense for me. Minus means less regenerative braking, and plus means more generic. We have your generic braking. It's just like any other braking. It's not special in any real way. But now we're going to go down this hill, and I'm going to see if I can slow the vehicle down smoothly just using the regenerative capabilities. Here we go. Whee! Hit it. That'll slow it down just a little bit. And now we're going to let it up so we can coast more. Look at there. Look at there. It's on automatic now. So it will pretty much adjust itself for what it believes is the proper level of regenerative braking. Because the more regenerative braking, the more you charge back the battery, but at the same time you also slow the car more. It makes sense. And that's how all this works. Oh, I have a little bug. I can see a little bug on the side of the mirror. He's in a little niche there. See if he'll be all right at 60 miles an hour. I think he will. I have great faith in this bug. And the acceleration on this car is just like all electric, smooth, strong, wunderbar. And where is our cruise? Here it is. Distance 3, distance 3. What the hell does that mean? There we go. Are we set? No. I'm working on it. Hang on. Sloopy. There we go. And we'll set her right there. Perfect. Now we're at 60 miles an hour, and we do have the ability to control the lane via the car. There we go. I'll put that on now and let her steer herself. Ah, yes, the Kevin Bacon of electric vehicles right here. So we have one of the nice things about this car I like already is that the control interfaces and everything aren't crazy They're not going for the ultra modern. They're going for more along the lines of, let's just say, practical accessibility for your needs. And this must be how this is how oh, I see what we're talking about. Okay. I'm still figuring stuff out, sorry. We look to be heading into an inclemency. But am I worried about this weather change? No, because I'm in the lively forest. The crickets. Or all those tree frogs. You decide. It's your choice. We're in the eco mode, by the way, which to me has always made a lot of sense for electrics, because one of the reasons that you have to be, the only downside, if you will, of an electric battery-powered vehicle like this one is the fact that you have to be more wary about when you need to refuel. Because when you refuel, that actually means plugging the vehicle in. And depending on what type of charging available to you, it can take a very long time. If you try to do it at your house, for example, where you just have like a piddly, I don't know, 30 amp, 120 volt outlet, what are you going to have? Well, 30 amp, is that high for an outlet? Yeah, that's high for an outlet. The whole house, I think, is 30. Well, anyway, let's just stick with 120 volts. It'll take you a long time to recharge the massive battery on this car. But if you have access, but you can cut that down dramatically if you have a charger installed at your house that uses 220 volt and a high pull of amperage. And even better than that, if you go to one of these charging stations that has a charger on it that can really put out the voltage and the amperage, it can cut it in half again. So we'll see. I will be charging this. I'm going to run this vehicle down quite a bit, and then I'm going to charge it all the way back up to 100%, and we'll see exactly using a commercially available charging. It's like going to a Shell station, except it's electricity. I believe the one I'll be using is called Electrify America. And we'll see how long it takes to charge. That's a good system that I've used this one several times, and I like the fact that you have an app on your phone and you can go have lunch, do whatever, but you can constantly check down on your app and see how the charging is going, because when your vehicle is 100% charged, it varies from location to location, but they will start to charge you for every, I don't know if it's minute, hour, or what it is, that your vehicle is sitting there fully charged and denying access to another vehicle that needs to get into that bay and use it. So, you know, what would happen if the lively forest turned into kind of a Jurassic Park situation? Boy, that would be nasty. And we're restoring, and we'll take her down a little bit here. Boy, it does come up to speed nice and fast. I don't know if that's adjustable on this car or not. It may be, but that's a nice feature to have if you are really meticulous about how every aspect of your car operates. That's a good one, because it will help say everything. You got to be concerned, since the bottom line is what I was talking about earlier. When you refuel, you have to allow time for it to do it, depending on where you have to go when you're coming back. If you're returning home, if you drove 100 miles away from your house and you have to drive 100 miles back, you have to have a certain amount of battery capacity to not only get you home, but have some reserve as well. So you need to know how long you're going to have to sit or do something else while the car is charging. And there's all these other variables you run into. The more vehicles that are at a charging station, using more of the bays, charging bays, the lower the actual power you're getting to your car, which increases your battery recharge time. You learn all this stuff when you deal with an electric. And it's getting better. Where I live, it's pretty awful. And why that is in this part of the country, I have no idea. It should be. This is a part of the country that I would have thought would have embraced the electric lifestyle, but you never know. What is this going to do for us from the short term? Well, ideally it'll cut down on our total burning of carbon because we have fewer internal combustion vehicles, but will that degree of improvement be better to the point that we're really going to make a difference? I don't know. I think the future needs to get here faster, and it needs to be hydrogen. And you need to be able to get hydrogen at gas stations. And you need to be able to produce the hydrogen that you need for automotive applications via a method that doesn't use any kind of fossil fuels, because they're actually deriving most of the hydrogen now that they're using from natural gas and things. So anyway, hopefully all that'll change. And I don't know if what we have any. We do have our camera that pops up whenever you have your blind spot warning. It's actually in your. Oh, is my bug still there? Oh, he left. That's in your mirror to tell you if there's someone in your blind spot. And then you also have that camera that pops up, which is very handy. And I see this rain and it upsets me because we don't need more rain. We've had so much more. We had more rain than Carter's got little liver pills, as we used to say when I was a very young man. Whatever happened to Carter's liver pills? Do they still have those? Maybe they've been determined to be not as effective as they were advertising. Imagine that. So what else do we have in our... I wonder how I can... I'll have to figure that out. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Now let's see if the car sees the car in front of me. It does. And is it slowing us down smoothly, or is it going to wait till the last minute? No, it's doing good. Fairly good. It seemed to see it far enough in advance that don't zoom up too much there. There we go. We're all automatic at here. We're letting the car do its thing. We're at Sound of Nature, and let's see, what else can we do though? List, is that it? On a sailing ship. Experience the universe. Oh, let's go there. That universe, you know, it's a wild thing. The universe is a place that Kevin Bacon lives in. Oh, Kevin and his brother, I tell you what, they're talented. Their band is very good. They make the music. But it's really the change in the seasons changes everything. And how's that going to do with this electric car? Well, it means winter, if it ever gets here. What we've been experiencing lately, and this may not be the situation at all this year, but the winters have been quite a bit warmer than they used to be, and we've gotten considerably less snow because of it. We've still gotten a lot of precipitation, but it's mainly been like this. It's been rain. So who knows? But with lithium-ion batteries, they've made great strides in a very short period of time to make these batteries do much better in the cold as far as and how they do that is the colder it gets, apparently, the more of a drain it is on the battery as far as your overall capacity for the given charge that you had in it. In other words, you're going to lose a little bit of your charge in really, really cold weather. So what they've done is they've put in a system where they're heating the battery when it gets, in addition to all the cooling you have to keep the lithium-ion batteries cooler. And by the way, in this car, I haven't looked, but if it's a Hyundai, then it's probably a lithium polymer battery, which is kind of their own flavor of the lithium-ion situation. And It's a good one. I like it. I like that universe thing. Traction on this thing is great, largely because it's all-wheel drive and electric motor versus electric motor, and I believe they have the exact same output front and back, and which results in the balance of power being put out. It's really nice. That and the fact that you have the biggest part of the weight of this vehicle is down low. It's in the lower part of the chassis where it's the batteries, which is the heavy thing. And by putting them low in the chassis and everything, it not only aids handling, but I think it also aids overall weight distribution, and which ultimately also helps your traction, balanced traction situation. I will not be driving this vehicle in the snow, but I bet, I'm willing to wager it would probably do very well in the snow. I think most of the electrics do now. Look at all these issues.
Aluminum for you. Aluminium for me.
Oh, it's always a nice thing to see when you get underneath the car and you see these beautiful control arms that are done in like forged aluminum or cast aluminum or however the aluminum is being distributed. But our Ion 6 has a very, very state-of-the-art rear suspension. It is, of course, a multi-link unit. And up here we have that's our front link up there. And then, of course, we have this beautiful, beautiful, almost looks like a tuning fork or something like that. Or maybe the ultimate divining rod if you're out looking for water, that kind of thing. Our shock absorber is here. It's a very substantial shock absorber too. It's got a huge diameter on it for such a, well, again, this is not a light car. This is 40-something, 4,800 pounds, something like that. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. I've forgotten. But it's heavy because of this right here. All this here is your battery. And it is a big battery because this is the extended range version of the Ioniq 6. So there's a whole lot of kilowatts in there, and it weighs over 1,000 pounds. Right there, right there, right there, right here. So you have this great big, incorporated into the lower part of the unibody is a very big 1,000-pound thing. So you can imagine what that does for your handling. It's actually the best possible place to put all that weight. So it keeps it hugging the ground, but it also would explain why the suspension is pretty damn substantial because it's carrying a lot of weight, and you'd never know it because the car does feel very light on its feet, and it has that great combination of when you're going over like a bumpy turn where you have a suspension that's being compressed quite a bit because of the weight and because of the bumps, and it delivers a really, really smooth ride because it's tuned beautifully. They did a really nice job with that. So up in here, if you look up in here, you will see our drive shaft. And here, underneath all this cladding stuff right here, is our rear drivetrain. I hesitate to just cite rear differential because that kind of implies it would have a normal type of all-wheel drive system, and it has a normal type of all-wheel drive system for a full electric, which means that the rear system, the rear drive part of the car is completely separate from the front drive part of the car. Both of them are connected to both the battery, of course, and a CPU system that takes all these, your wheel speed sensors and everything else and determines exactly how much power needs to go out of the rear wheels. It's the kind of thing where it's not a mechanical link, so it's not super heavy duty. But at the same time, it is very, very efficient and works great, provided that everything's working great. And most of these systems, if they have a problem for some reason, they'll go into a freewheeling mode so that they'll just disconnect the rear motor from the tires itself, so you'll still be able to propel along on the front. I don't have no idea if this particular Hyundai has that, but that's one of the ways that system works in the event of a problem. And I haven't heard a lot of problems with it. I look at Toyota with their RAV4 hybrid and any all-wheel drive Toyota hybrid, with the exception of the Tundra, has this type of system where the rear drive system is completely separate from the front, and I haven't heard of a lot of problems with that. So as long as the computers are talking to each other, you're fine. You can see right underneath there, there's some of our, now get the instrument. We have our, whenever you see this bright orange, that is high voltage. High voltage, so you want to stay away from that, and especially if you're like sitting in a puddle of water, barefoot, with a big steel rod in your hand, and you start poking at it. Don't do that under any circumstances. That would be foolish. But anyway, as is practice with the electric realm, we have all this cladding underneath here that helps streamline the car. Everything is about sliding through the air as efficiently as possible, because everything you're doing along those lines will help ensure that your battery lasts longer, hence you have longer range. And so all electrics do this. They cover up pretty much everything, and that gives you the dual benefit of actually protecting components underneath there to a certain extent. I mean, to a reasonable extent. If you run over a log, you can still do a lot of damage. But otherwise, it's pretty well protected. But there's let's see if I can even see any of these other links underneath here. Oh boy, there's more cablery. Yeah, there we go. There is a top link also here. Right there. There it is. So when we say multi-link, we're not kidding around. And you got this torsional support here, right here, that goes there. It looks like if they wanted to, they could put four-wheel steering. And as you know, Hyundai is the parent company of Genesis. And a lot of the Genesis models do have rear-wheel steering as well. So if they wanted to add it onto this car, I don't think that would be a big deal. As a matter of fact, who knows? This may share a chassis with some Infiniti. Oops, I didn't say that, did I? I meant Genesis. So who knows? It could be, maybe they'll have a super upgraded version of the Ioniq 6 at some point that might have that. But I personally don't think you need it, because it just adds complexity and parts and expense. And the car does pretty well just with conventional non-turning rear suspension components. So, alrighty then, there you go. That is your Ioniq 6 from deep down below. And so ends our time with the Transmission Blue 2023. 24 is the same pretty much. Ioniq 6 Limited. Now this has been a lot of fun, this car, because I think it's nice to see what an improvement it is over the 2000 and not over the 2000 and something, but over the Ioniq 5. It's a much better vehicle. It's got more room in it. It's a little more versatile, but more importantly, Hyundai has addressed the fact that you need more range out of an electric, and for this particular model, 270 miles is pretty good. And you can also be, if you have access to a super fast charger, you can charge that sucker right up. So think about it, huh? If you're in the market for an electric. And also, when you're out and about, be careful, drive safely, and with any luck at all, we'll see you again next time, very soon. Bye-bye now.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
Bye, Kevin Bacon.
Bye, Kevin Bacon.
Bye, Bacon.
Bye, Bacon.
We love you, Kevin Bacon.
Hey, I'll see you at Easter.